Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Week 3 of Halloween themed content. This week we're looking at 12 great Wii games for Halloween. Even though the Wii is known for its family-friendly vibe, it surprisingly featured a few dark survival horror games aimed at the older players. These titles cleverly utilized the console's motion controls to deliver chilling and immersive experiences that were pretty unique for the era. If you're up for a scare, these Wii games are sure to send shivers down your spine before you even get to secure the wrist strap on your Wiimote. A lot of horror games tend to stick to familiar spots, like creepy hospitals or deserted towns, but Cursed Mountain takes it up a notch by dropping you into the Himalayas for a spine-chilling adventure. When Eric's brother goes missing on an expedition, he has to brave the dangerous mountain and figure out how to lift the curse haunting the region. The team behind Cursed Mountain really dug deep into Tibetan legends and Himalayan tales during their pre-production phase, aiming to craft a unique survival horror experience, and they nailed it. The setting and storyline still feel pretty original even today, although the use of the motion controls to fight off the enemies can sometimes feel a little off. Overall, still a fun reason to dust off the Wii.
Paul returned to base camp. The storm.
After the huge hit of Capcom's Dead Rising on the Xbox 360, the developers jumped at the chance to whip up a new version just for the Wii. It might have a few rough spots here and there, but it's still a total blast to dive into. The storyline sticks pretty close to the original, following journalist Frank West as he navigates a mall overrun by zombies. Now, there are some added tweaks, like the addition of zombified animals, and some pretty fun extra minigames that you can unlock after the main quest. This is a version that you're going to want to play through a few times so that you get to see and play everything. It's still pretty wild to think that Resident Evil 4 started out as a GameCube exclusive, and it's since become one of the all-time greats. It's shown up on 3 or 4 of my top 10 lists as well. Now, you can find it on just about every console out there, and it even got a VR remake. While it's available on almost every platform, the Nintendo Wii version is still one of the top ways to experience it. The game really makes the most of the Wii's motion controls, letting you aim your controller right at the screen to take out the Ganados or other enemies. This point-and-shoot mechanic gives the game a fresh twist for veterans, and if you have a Wii Zapper lying around, you can totally feel like Leon on a mission to save the president's daughter. If you don't have a VR headset, dig out or go rebuy a Wii. Now, again, you might not think of a Nintendo console when you picture an intense and gory atmosphere, something like Dead Space. However, the Wii turns out to be a fantastic platform for rail shooters, and Dead Space Extraction is a cool spin-off that keeps horror and tension alive from the main series. Set before the original game, Dead Space Extraction follows a group of survivors trying to escape a ship overrun by necromorphs. You'll get to play as different characters throughout 10 chapters, blasting anything that comes your way. If you're into the lore and universe of Dead Space, or you just like rail shooters, Extraction is definitely the title for you.
Or we would sort of not put much health or ammo around. So
What's going on here?
Beats me. Never seen anything like this.
The Umbrella Chronicles is another rail shooter. This one revisits the stories from Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, and of course the original game. It gives fans a chance to dive into some of the series' most famous spots like Raccoon City and the Spencer Mansion, all while taking out zombies from a first-person perspective. While there's a ton of action, the game also packs in plenty of jump scares and some seriously creepy enemies to remind players of the dark and twisted nature of the Resident Evil universe. Capcom even threw in a brand new storyline set in Umbrella's last research facility in Russia, wrapping up the company's downfall in a way that the main games never did. The motion controls are super responsive, and using the Wii Zapper makes the shooting experience even more engaging and precise.
Data has been backed up to the
Possible.
Ju-On, or The Grudge as it's known in the West, was a horror franchise that took off in the early 2000s and was super over. To mark its then 10th anniversary, they decided to create a special video game with the Wii in mind. With the original series creator stepping in to direct, Ju-On the Grudge isn't your typical survivor horror game, it's more like a walking simulator. You won't be battling monsters, but the real thrill comes from exploring creepy locations filled with jump scares around every corner. Plus, the game uses the Wiimote's motion controllers to see if you flinch, which can actually change how well you do in the game. The House of the Dead is a legendary rail shooting series, but it didn't make its way to home consoles until this prequel hit the Wii in 2009. You can team up with a buddy or go solo as you join Special Agent G and Detective Isaac Washington on their mission in Louisiana to take down zombies and stop a dangerous chemical called Formula X from wreaking havoc. If you dig exploitation flicks like Grindhouse, then House of the Dead Overkill is a go-to for a wild and spooky ride. The game is pretty short, wrapping up the campaign in about 3.5 hours, but each chapter is packed with jaw-dropping moments, cheesy one-liners, and over-the-top action that make it an awesome choice to play, especially in October.
The Dead Overkill.
One of the coolest but often overlooked features of the Wiimote was the built-in speaker, which added a whole new layer of immersion for various sounds and noises during gameplay. A standout example is the Wii-exclusive game Calling, where you actually hold the controller up to your ear like a phone to catch eerie calls from ghosts. It's hard to find modern horror games that can replicate the spine-chilling sensation of a ghost whispering right in your ear while something scary is happening on the screen. Calling definitely keeps you on your toes as you explore creepy places like abandoned hospitals or doll-filled rooms. Although some of the QuickTime events can feel a little cheesy, this is the perfect game for Halloween. There's a lot of good Resident Evil on the Wii. So, the awesome remake of the original Resident Evil made its way to the Wii, alongside Resident Evil 0 under the Resident Evil Archives banner. It's pretty much a direct port of the GameCube version with just a few tweaks, but the remake is definitely one of the top games in the series. Having it on the Wii just gives you yet another chance to dive back into the spooky Spencer Mansion whenever you feel like it. Even though it is on the Wii, this version of Resident Evil doesn't have any motion controls. And honestly, that's probably a good thing since it would be tough to picture how they would fit that in, and adding them just might ruin some of the classic charm and tension from Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield's first journey. The Wii had a ton of unique games, but it also got some surprise ports from developers like Rockstar. After pretty much skipping the GameCube, Rockstar saw how popular the Wii was and made sure to bring a lot of their games to it, including the infamous Manhunt 2. Even though Manhunt 2 seems to clash with the Wii's family-friendly vibe, many fans actually think that this version on the Nintendo console is one of the best ways to play the game. Sure, it's a bit more toned down and censored, but the addition of motion controls makes it even creepier and more intense to play. I remember back in the day there was a lot of early backlash when this first came out on the Wii. People were freaked out at the possibility of having to mime the actions of strangulation.
Finish him. Go.
Obscure: The Aftermath serves as a sequel to the 2004 title and is set 2 years after the first game. It's a real shame that the original Obscure isn't on the Wii, but you'll quickly piece together what's going on. A group of students have to survive a night against mutants while confronting a secret organization that's hiding behind a fraternity facade. The story is pretty easy to predict, and the gameplay doesn't break any new ground, but there's a standout feature: you can play cooperatively with a friend. With 6 characters to choose from, each with their own unique abilities, you can have a blast trying out different combos as you take on the game together. The visuals might not hold up to today's standard, but the gameplay does. The Silent Hill series is usually linked with Sony, but when the folks at Climax Studios got their first look at the Nintendo Wii, they realized that it could be the perfect platform for a new game that would completely change the game's narrative. Although Silent Hill Shattered Memories was later adapted for the PSP and PS2, the original version on the Wii is still considered the best way to dive into this experience. Lead designer and writer Sam Barlow, who later went on to create the amazing Her Story and Immortality, cleverly utilizes the Wii's motion controls in a really unique and impactful way. Everything you do, from examining objects to responding to questions, gets logged by a psych profile that influences the storyline and even how enemies look. Each time you play, it should feel a bit different, making Shattered Memories one of the most replayable titles in the franchise. And that's going to do it for my list of 12 great Wii games that you should be playing this Halloween. Of course, you know what I'm going to ask, guys. Down in the comments, are there any horror-themed games for the Wii that you think I missed or that should have been on this list? I'd love to hear from you guys. I'll see you in about a week. Take care. Don't forget the thumbs up.